impacts the economy, food chain, energy, and financial systems. War is always expensive. According to Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal, Ukraine's spending on complex defense and economic support comprises about $70 million a day. This figure does not take into account the cost of numerous damages and destruction. Some cities, such as Bucha, Irpin, Borodanka, and Mariupol, are completely destroyed. Many companies are located in the active combat zone and were forced to either evacuate to safe regions or stop operations. Nevertheless, Ukrainian business continues to work wherever possible, pay taxes, and provide the country with resources needed to continue its defense in wartime. This is UA, the day that we survived. Ukrainian journalists have come together to create it with real people who record themselves and send us their recordings. Ukraine will be recovering from this war for a long time to come. And not only Ukraine. The United Nations have warned that the closure of Black Sea ports might trigger a global food catastrophe that would lead to hunger, mass migration, and political instability. Ukraine's warehouses are overflowing with grain, which usually helps feed 400 million people around the world each year. But the supply chain has been affected by war. The UN also emphasizes that about 30% of Ukrainian agricultural land will not be used for sowing crops this year. At the same time, Ukrainian business is fighting alone with the army. After several weeks of shock, entrepreneurs are trying to get back on their feet. Last week, more than 900 grocery stores, 35 markets, and about 460 cafes operated in Kyiv. Manicure studios, barbershops, and even swimming pools are opening each day now. Before the war, the Bra company was a Ukrainian lingerie brand that cared about women, taught them how to choose lingerie and appreciate their bodies. Victoria, Bra's PR manager, shares that they had an action plan in case of wartime. The company remembered the events of 2014 in eastern Ukraine, the evacuation of business, and the consequences in the economic and humanitarian sectors. A quick response enabled the brand to restore the work of half of the stores and join the volunteer assistance.
Десь на другий тиждень війни нам
From the second week of the war, we started getting messages with questions if we could provide support or help with things like pajamas, underwear, and other apparel.
піжамами, білизною і так далі. Ми почали
So we started looking for opportunities.
наших студій, магазинів, дівчата
We took an inventory of our studios and shops which we could reach physically to understand what we have in stock and began responding to requests from volunteers.
волонтерів і почали реагувати на запити, які нам надходили. В числі
There were volunteer, refugee, childcare centers and hospitals in Mykolaiv and Kyiv among those organizations. We also tried to respond to personal requests we receive from girls and women refugees because we understand that many people have fled their homes without necessity goods. And we are glad that we can help these people, at least somehow. Now the whole process has become a bit easier since we managed to evacuate our central warehouse to the western part of Ukraine.
центральний склад на Західну Україну ми отримали.
As the result, we gained access to most of our goods.
Тому тепер ми оперуємо.
Now we can manage not only what's available in stores.
Ми також ввели обов'язково
We also donate 30% of our income from the sales of the most popular collection to the armed forces of Ukraine.
Bra stores were all over Ukraine. The company says that now it is important to keep not only jobs, but also the emotional state of employees, the livelihood of their families, especially those who have recently moved out of dangerous regions.
Звісно, коли ми говоримо про труднощі.
Of course, when we talk about difficulties and when we talk about the team, we have to mention that a significant part of our chain has been influenced by the war.
Постраждали від російської армії, постраждали.
It suffered from the deeds of the Russian army and occupation, and it's suffering to this day. These are the stores located in Mariupol, Severodonetsk, Kharkiv, Kherson, Mykolaiv, and Kyiv Retroville shopping mall. It is a painful damage to the company, But it is heartwarming that our team from these regions is safe,
Команда із цих регіонів, вона у безпеці, і ми
and we are trying to help the girls who have left these areas.
намагаємося виїхати з цих кризових, страшних регіонів.
We are confident that together we will be able to overcome these difficulties and rebuild our business.
Зможемо відновити нашу державу, нашу компанію, нашу роботу.
Alexei is a 50-year-old entrepreneur from Mariupol. He could not evacuate his business to safety. Some of his staff have not been in touch for more than a month. However, Alexei believes that he will be able to resume his business. For now, he has found how to use his time in the new circumstances.
I had a workshop in Mariupol. I was engaged in the production of spare format parts for pharmaceutical equipment. I've worked with several companies in Ukraine. Since the beginning of the war, I haven't been able to evacuate my business, because in Mariupol all of the evacuation routes were cut off quite quickly. Plus, I was in western Ukraine at that time, so there was no time to do anything. In short, I couldn't do it. The only thing that we could do was pay our employees' salary in advance. We paid what taxes we could. Next was standby and surveillance mode. We tried to track from a distance where our employees were and help them with information. Where they could rent a house or something, that sort of thing. I had to forget about business for a while. I registered as a displaced person to find a job. I had to quickly take the course of a young fighter and learn to work on a milling machine. It's a machine with digital program control. It's a job more for the future, for training. Now I'm trying to put things all together because I've lost almost everything. Technology and information. I use this time to think up perspectives, things that will allow us to start quickly in the future, organize a new business, or improve what we had. That is, to rise up and after the war become stronger. I would like to return to Mariupol and I would like to rebuild it. And do everything in a new way. We plan to train and raise the level of our employees who want to stay so they can work with new equipment and be more productive. Because all the sacrifices made in this war must not be in vain. For myself, I see that Mariupol is Ukraine, and the city will be even better than it was before the war.
Learning new things has also become a necessity for Andrew and Julia. The couple has an interior design studio in Ukraine, Latvian Studio. During the war, some Ukrainian customers had to pause their orders, so the company decided to enter the Middle East market.
In the beginning, we hesitated about whether we should take the risk or not, but we eventually decided to take it. For businesses, it's necessary to take risks to get a good result. Our first goal was to sit down and analyze the situation in foreign markets. And now we've decided to base in Dubai, in the UAE, and launch our advertisements.
Всі проблеми йти тільки вперед, і все однозначно получиться.
At first, we encountered a few problems, but we figured that's just how it goes, and we'll always have them. But the main trajectory at the moment is forward through these challenges, and that way I think we'll work things out.
Коли я сиділа 2 дні вихідних, сиділа, репетирувала звів аля виступ.
Difficulty number one is usually the language barrier. I usually feel like I know enough English to communicate with clients, but when you're always holding meetings in Ukrainian, it's difficult to say the same thing in English. I remember my first meeting, before which I took 2 days off to rehearse my speech, what I would say. I was so worried about it, it felt like some sort of school test. But now, one meeting after another, it's gotten much easier. You still have to learn, develop further, and it kind of reminds me of what my mom told me when I was in school, that you just need to learn English. It really is that important. The team should also be able to speak English quite well. It's difficult enough to enter a foreign market, and on top of that, it has its own specific rules and requirements. First of all, you're the new kid on the block, and second of all, apparently you can't put outlets in the bathroom in Dubai. How are you supposed to do styling in a bathroom? There are a lot of subtle things like that. Anger is probably the best word that describes how we felt that life could just change overnight when you've gotten used to doing your thing, moving around, and now you can't. You realize you just don't have any more clients and you're not sure where to go because you're stuck. That was probably the most upsetting part, and I really wanted to get out of it. Especially when you're always working and suddenly something doesn't work out because now you apparently need to have implemented something cool and innovative because the folks over in Dubai want it, or if you're messaging a client at 3 a.m. because they're doing Ramadan. It's probably all psychological, considering that before, whenever anything didn't work out, it'd make me angry, and instead of giving up, I'd want to finish that thing. And you definitely don't want to give up all that you've achieved. You start remembering how old you are, how you have what it takes to do this stuff, all your thoughts and experiences. You just got to pull yourself together and realize that even in a situation like this, you can do what you want to do. It was really difficult for us to build our team. You start to realize that it's everything. You know it's a huge responsibility. You want to give people a job, awesome projects for them to do, and you want to do cool stuff too, and generally work to better our country. We actually had a choice. Someone told us that we should probably move abroad and maintain our team there. We said, no, we're good here, thanks, and we're going to stay here to pay taxes, because I think that Ukraine is going to be really well known in the coming years. The main thing right now is to move forward and not give up.
Despite the difficulties, Andrew and Julia are making plans for the after the war time.
Yes, we won, but what do we do now? Even before the war, we were planning on launching educational courses. We will still make our dream come true. We wanted to launch our Ukrainian language YouTube channel about design, have a good time, show the way we do our work. I'm sure we'll be able to do it. I've also been dreaming of moving on to full-fledged architecture work since I was a student, and now I've been dreaming about it in general. Not just small residential houses, but actually about large-scale construction, so I think after the war, I'll definitely get on that.
The western part of Ukraine has become a reliable area where businesses continue to operate to support the economy. Oksana Kaminska is the development director for the 23 restaurants network in Ivano-Frankivsk, a regional center in western Ukraine. Oksana says that there was no preparation for a full-scale war as such. As usual, the company had been planning the year for each restaurant on the network and had been actively working on a new project in Lviv.
I will never forget the morning of February 24th. I woke up because of the roar of the planes at about 6 a.m. I saw a report that there were explosions in Kyiv. It became clear that the worst scenario had happened. We quickly arranged an online call with executives to discuss the situation. As we knew nothing in the morning, we decided to go to the restaurants first to get the products in order, to find out the status of each employee in the team, whether they are here and can work, or whether they have left. We did not understand whether there was a necessity for our work during the war. At the time, we were aware of our responsibility to the employees. Till evening, we understood the situation. But the most important thing is that we saw that we have to continue working, although in another format, Maybe not all the restaurants, but we definitely needed to work. We recruited people who were willing to work. We transferred everyone to a fixed daily fee and changed the menu. The first task was to use available products so the dishes we served changed daily. We changed financial accounting as we have done during the COVID and adopted work schedules. The first days of the war were difficult, but at the same time, I felt incredibly proud of our teams. I have not seen such involvement, support, and resilience for a long time. We cried a lot, hugged, supported each other and our guests, and it was especially painful when people talked about escaping from the shelling. And all we could give them was food and a hug, which was very disproportionate to what they went through. And there were many words of gratitude from all who came to us. Now the processes have been more or less stabilized. We have resumed hiring people, trying to employ internally displaced people if they are suitable for our vacancies. We are returning to previous salary models, restoring pre-war menus, and even working on seasonal updates, slightly extending the work schedule and developing instructions in case of air alarm. And, of course, we are preparing for the opening of summer terraces and Easter.
23 Restaurants Network has contributed to the establishment of the Safe Ukraine Now foundation that engages in the staffing of battalions for the armed forces and the territorial defense of Ivano-Frankivsk. From the first days of war, the network's restaurants have been providing the military, territorial defense, and police with food. Oksana says that even the waiters decided to donate their tips to the Come Back Alive Foundation. She also talks about helping entrepreneurs from other cities and supporting relocation of businesses.
In our store, Delikatia or Delicacy, we have girls, Tanya and Lila, from Kharkiv, who left their bakery, Puhke, there. The bakery is now open, but it is challenging for the team. We decided to help them, and now everyone can buy branded cinnamon buns, the net proceeds of which we transferred to the team of Puhke in Kharkiv. Also, I am involved in the initiative Save Business Now, aimed to help businesses relocate to Ivano-Frankivsk. One of our key tasks, in addition to actually moving, is to help businesses adopt to our environment. That's why we are developing networks, finding profitable events, and information that may be important and necessary for business during the war.
According to the state relocation program, 400 enterprises have been relocated from the zones of active hostilities. More than 200 of them are already operating. Even more businesses were able to evacuate on their own, like Yuri Kucherovsky, the owner of an online furniture marketplace. He and his family have spent more than a week in the basement of their house in Irpin, together with 160 other people.
So we stayed there until the morning of the 4th or 5th of March. I arranged with my brother-in-law and he took us away by car. We planned to transfer my family and that's all. But when I was near the car to say goodbye and to give my wife and children their luggage, and he told me, so let's go with us. And I was like, and one sweater with a bag, I had nothing. But I agreed because the situation was getting worse and worse in the region, specifically on our streets. Well, I will not talk about it. So we got to Ivano-Frankivsk, and when my shock passed on the 11th day, I turned on all my advertisements and shops there and called everyone. From the very beginning, I built my business as mobile and as remote as possible. My whole team is remote, but they're unfortunately in Kherson, Kharkiv, Odessa, well, and Kyiv too. This is my team, contractors, manufacturers, and partners throughout Ukraine. There are no people you haven't had contact with. I called in manufacturers in Kherson and Zaporizhia. They're not working now, but everything is more or less okay. The manufacturer was relocated from Kyiv to Rivne. I moved the production of metal bits from Kyiv to Kropyvnytsky. By the way, I decided to do a different brand positioning. It used to be Toby Show, furniture that you have been looking for. Now it's Toby Show, essential furniture. These are specifically beds, mattresses, cots, bedding, and specifically the new directions of work with funds, arrangement of shelters. What did we do? We shipped 200 sets of bedclothes for the wounded to the hospital in Dnipro. This was in March. Made in a week with the team of Andrei Tan. It's great when there are customers who give the opportunity to buy material, pay salaries, so we can ship. Not at commercial prices, just at the cost of materials and work. So further, we shipped 127 beds to Palanezia, Bukovel, and we shipped 50 beds to Venezia. They are bunk beds with mattresses. This is already a permanent place of residence for displaced persons. So now we're sending to Ushhorod, Zaporizhia now orders, and Kyiv too. There are some further orders, and I'm very happy with each other because somewhere 50 to 60 people have the opportunity to work. The hardest part is when you can't help, like my colleague in Kherson. We spent a week helping. We have money, everything, but we only collected medicine for a week to send them. Who'll ship it? The volunteers. Will they get there or not? And there is almost nothing. This is the most difficult because if a person is more or less with the internet in front of a PC, I will give him or her the opportunity. I took a 56-year-old woman from Irpin and she's been working very successfully for a week and a half and has already earned money. I'm amazed. I still want to hire people now. I would like to thank all Ukrainian companies, partners, and great logisticians who deliver parcels because all this is very important.
With the beginning of full-scale hostilities, many men either enlisted to go to the front line or join the local territorial defense. To keep employees, entrepreneurs now have to retrain everyone they can. The IT industry, which unsurprisingly turned out to be the most resilient to war, has also suffered due to partial cancellations of orders and staff mobilization. Vitaly Rudimurk has been working in business process automation and digitalization of businesses for 15 years. His projects have been helping Ukrainian IT companies and individual professionals to find customers even during the war. Vitaly shares how he and his colleagues planned risks and how they kept employees productive.
Among the risks we have seen disruptions in the banking system, problems, issues with the internet. Because of this, key people may not be able to perform their functions. Well, of course, firstly, our work was to face technical issues, such as the search for backup internet channels, including Starlink, as the opening of legal entities abroad. But it certainly cannot solve the main problem, I mean working with people. Well, not even a problem but a task, which is to maintain the most effective productivity of people, especially those who have high positions in the company. Those who work with teams, who also work with people, with customers. To do this, first of all, we have to boost our communication. The first days we had daily general meetings where we talked and shared thoughts, impressions, emotions, and it helped a lot. We fully restored our ability to work quickly, literally in the first 2 weeks.
Зрозуміло, що вона супроводжувалась активними нашими якимись допомогами нашим.
Of course, we also actively helped our armed forces, relatives, and those who needed our support.
Ми про це знали.
Each of us has contributed our own energy and resources to working on these issues and managing job tasks.
Ресурсами для того, щоб крім роботи ще й працювати над цими всіма питаннями, які виникли.
Volodymyr Svetlitsky is a managing partner of the small internet marketing agency. universal exports.
We are a small agency specializing in comprehensive online marketing support for medium-sized businesses. We are Google's premier partner. The customers outside of Ukraine make up about 50% of our business. For us, the war began in 2014, so we haven't been working with clients from Russia since then, and we have limited our work with Russian services as much as possible. When the current phase of the war began, of course, the first reaction was to make sure that everything was fine with family and friends. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, we turned off the advertising campaigns of Ukrainian clients and informed them about it. We understood that it was not a local escalation in the Donbas, and the whole Ukraine was under attack. Therefore, the task was to save customers' money, taking into account that all businesses would stop operating for a certain period of time. The second step was to take care of the staff. We urgently paid advances to all employees and recommended stocking up on water, food, and everything they need, because the situation was unclear, to say the least. Thirdly, I wrote a post calling on to all colleagues and businesses to do the same. Stop all their or their clients' advertising campaigns and pay staff advances. After that, I switched to the issue of my family's safety. As practice has shown, this decision was correct, and the first Ukrainian clients began to resume work only 3 weeks later. Then the question of how to work in a new reality has arrived. We had an advantage over most businesses. A few years ago, before the COVID pandemic, we had decided to work remotely, without an office. There were many reasons for that. Our business didn't have any representative function. We didn't accept clients in the office, and we realized that spending up to 2 or 3 hours a day on the road just to work in the office is pointless. During the first 3 weeks, we have been working conditionally, as to say. Someone from the team was sitting in a bomb shelter, someone was trying to settle in an evacuation, someone was pouring Molotov cocktails for territorial defense forces. And every day began with roll calls in the chats, how people felt and if everybody was safe.
The agency was able to stabilize the workflow and keep the team. More than half of the staff has evacuated, but everyone stays in Ukraine.
Now we have stabilized our work more or less. We managed to keep the team. We have been actively involved in restoring the operation of our clients. We have 2 main fields that we are currently working on. The first is to start advertising. We want to run at least limited customer operations. Some of us are working on it in the west of Ukraine, some everywhere where there are no combat hostilities. We often push the clients ourselves. We provide them with a free support period so that they can just restart their businesses, because we understand that economic recovery is no less important than military success. One way or another, 40% of clients have resumed the work for now. We hope that in the next 10 days we will bring this figure up to 60%. The second major area is the switching off from Russia-based services. Mostly they are CRM Bittrex, AMA and Tilda website designer as well. Tilda was a very good service, but it is Russian, so it needs to be fuck out. Now is not the time for compromise. We have found good options for switching, and we are actively helping small businesses with it. We have a certain margin of safety due to non-Ukrainian clients, so we do many things for clients for free or for a minimal fee. We have formed a whole package of support, both bonuses for advertising and bonuses for telephony. In short, all you need to do is to start operating, not waiting for some uncertain future. Of course, our agency is still a business, so we try to compensate for the loss of revenue from Ukrainian clients with new foreign clients. But we consider that working with Ukrainian clients is an investment in the future. Therefore, united we stand, and together to victory.
The events of the last few years, the revolution of dignity, Russia's occupation of the Crimean Peninsula, the war in Donbas, the coronavirus pandemic have trained Ukrainian entrepreneurs for crisis conditions. Of course, none of them would want to lose what they had gained and start all over again. Democratic societies wonder at the resiliency and courage of Ukrainians and offer us their help. You can also support Ukrainian business by choosing products made in Ukraine or employing Ukrainians abroad. After all, the economic front is no less important than the military one.